That's the rocking 60s, very popular at Lanky Cats at the moment. And we've got somebody else here, and hopefully we're going to have her on the show in about 2 weeks' time. That's going to be a thrill for me and a thrill for you, because I know how popular this young lady is. Get some of this, Andrea Cook. Andrea Cook. She's the Northern Girl. She's only be here in the studio in 2 weeks' time with a bit of luck, so looking forward to a lovely little chat with Andrea when she pops in. So Wigan Girl, Northern Girl, absolutely unbelievable. I've got something lined up now that I'm going to boast about now. This is me on drums playing in 2000, I think, and 12, something like that, 2013, with an extremely famous Liverpool band. It's the Dominoes, who eventually kind of morphed from King Size Taylor and the Dominoes to the Dominoes, because they split up and went their different ways. And what they did, and they've still been doing it, and as far as I'm aware, sometimes they still can get together and do it. And this is what I recorded with them all those years ago.
Top, 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 top. Long ginger hair, green eyes, not blue. You're the kind of girl I wanna talk to. Shapely hips, sweet, sweet lips. You're the kind of girl I wanna talk to. Well, rolling down the Reaper Band. Rocky music just as loud as we can. I like you, do you like me? Come on, pretty baby, can't you see? Star Club dance, started mania romance. You're the kind of girl I wanna talk to. Talk to me, baby. Talk from coast to coast. Now I don't like to boast, but you're the kind of girl I wanna talk to. In the cabin you'd be a star. They'd come from near and far to see the kind of girl I wanna talk to. Well, rolling down the Reaper Band. Rocky music just as loud as we can. I like you, do you like me? Come on, pretty baby, can't you see? Star Club dance, started mania romance. You're the kind of girl I wanna talk to. Talk. You're the kind of girl I wanna talk to. You're the kind of girl I wanna talk to.
Now, I've got a complaint, and I've just got the man sat at the side of me who I'm going to complain to. Now then, it's this. When the musicians from the Dominoes came into the studio, they did this particular track, which was brilliant, a brilliant track, and it was great to drum to. But the trouble is when musicians, guitarists and things, that's what I mean by musicians, they don't give drummers a gap to fill. They just kind of fill it all for themselves. And so my complaint is, you should have left me a gap, lads.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
I could have filled it nicely because I put the drumming down absolutely dead straight because there was nowhere else to go with it. And it's such a wonderful track. It's called Hamburg Connection, am I right?
It is. It's also called Talk.
Talk. Just before we go any further, we'll bring in George Eccles, a member of the Dominoes, and amongst other things of late. So we're going to find out a lot more from George shortly, and he's going to tell us all about his career for the last 10 minutes of his life. So we're looking forward to that. Now, of course, I've got Alan Menzies with me as well. They've joined me, Bill Hart, at Hospital Radio Wrightington on Lanky Beat Live, and I'm absolutely thrilled to bits to have them in the studio because I know we're going to have some fun. I know it down to me cotton socks. We're going to have some fun. So anyway, what I'm trying to get round to now is I'm trying to get round to pushing in a new CD because I forgot to put one in later to kind of get the continuity right, because that's one of the things us broadcasters have to get used to, getting the continuity right. So what we'd have to do is waffle, and we have to learn also as broadcasters, we have to learn how to waffle as well. So meanwhile, the CD is loading up, it's giving me a number, and I press a little number on here, and then we're all set. So we can go. Now then, this particular track, George just gave me the CD. He has asked for track number 1, and just quickly, George, tell me what the name of that track is.
So Long, Honey.
So that's it, we're in there.
Let go of my hand and show me the door. So long, you got me wrong. You ain't got me going, baby. You got me gone. Somewhere there's a guy that's waiting for you. Somewhere there's a man with nothing better to do. So long, you got me wrong. You ain't got me going, baby. You got me gone. There's a man for the money. There's a man for the show. Listen to what I tell you, honey. I'm a man for the road. 'Cause I'm not the man you're looking for. Honey, let go my hand and show me the door. So long, you got me wrong. You ain't got me going, baby. You got me gone. There's a man for the money. There's a man for the show. Listen to what I tell you, honey. I'm a man for the road. I'm not the man you're looking for. Honey, let go my hand and show me the door. So long, you got me wrong. You ain't got me going, baby. You got me gone. There's a man for the show. Listen to what I tell you, honey. I'm a man for the road. 'Cause I'm not the man you're looking for. Honey, let go my hand and show me the door. So long, you got me wrong. You ain't got me going, baby. You got me wrong. And I'm gone, gone.
George Eccles. Gone, gone, gone. That's an excellent track, Jack, isn't it? Eh? That's an excellent one. I'm talking to Jack Carney now, who's listening in Manchester. Any good, Jack? Any good? Yeah. I thought it would be. He's pretty good, is this George Eccles. Man, he's been round the block a bit, haven't you?
Certainly have, yeah.
Yeah.
Too right.
Tell us all about yourself then, George. You've been in my life now for about 7 years. I remember meeting you down by the River Mersey.
Correct.
And we were doing an exhibition of guitars, weren't we? Celebrating 50 years of Mersey beat rock and roll, or whatever we want to call it, weren't we? And
yeah, it was
we celebrated
absolutely
with a collection of guitars.
Great exhibition, that. Yeah.
In the and we put them together in the Beatles story, didn't we? Where the kind of the terminal, the ferry terminal, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
So we took the upstairs area and we did it for 5 weeks. We were there, and of course it needed guitars by the dozen, didn't it? And George was one of the main contributors to the guitar, because it wasn't that easy to pull all the guitars together, to ask somebody to say, can I borrow your guitar for 5 weeks, put it in an exhibition where lots of people will be coming in and out, and all of a sudden, you know blokes and their guitars, they're like, well, they're joined at the hip with the guitars, aren't they?
Quite true.
You can't separate them. And so it was an almighty task for a lot of people to do just that, and lots of people did, and I'm so grateful you did, because it turned out to be an excellent exhibition, and George was one of the ones, and I must thank him on air for actually doing that for me.
That was a pleasure.
Yeah, so that's where we met. So and that was in 2010, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because that was celebrated exactly 50 years, 1960. We celebrated the 50 years of Mersey Beat.
That's
So
right.
it'd have to be 1960.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, whether we'll do it then in another, we've only got 3 years to go. If we'll do it again in 2020, we'll be celebrating 60 years, wouldn't we? So there you go. So enough of my waffle. I'm good at that.
Well, it
What
was
about yourself?
well, it
Tell
was
us where
rather-
do you want to start with yourself?
Where shall I start? Oh, I'll start around about 13 years ago when I was playing with Sam Hardy, and we decided to
You've just been listening to Sam Hardy.
that's right.
Because that was his voice on the Dominoes. there.
Absolutely
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's now retired because he has an ear problem, but he's fine.
Yeah.
But getting him to play live is impossible. But he's friendly with ourselves, Alan as well, because
Excellent.
we did the Dominoes for nearly 10 years, and it was very successful.
Yeah.
And then we did our Orange Nail for
Yes,
two
I
years
remember Orange Nail.
with Alan on drums,
Right.
and it was a great band that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Sam didn't want to continue because of his ear problem. And the
Yeah.
last gig we played, was it at the Cavanagh?
Yeah, the
it
Cavanagh.
was. Yeah. And after that night, he said, "No, that's enough," because his hearing was affected.
Yeah.
So since then, I'll start there because it
Yeah.
goes back a long.
Yeah. Yeah. By all
But
means.
Alan will inform you there. He'll bring you up to date on that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It goes back 50 odd years, doesn't it, Alan? Yeah.
It does.
56 years.
Yeah, that's right. And but we've now got another band going, which is a great band, fabulous, really fun.
And what's
band.
its name?
No name.
What's its name?
No name. The band.
No Name is the name of the band.
So it's called
Oh.
No Name.
The Band.
The band.
And I've seen them, ladies and gentlemen. If you're, and they've been down to Lanky Cats a couple of times now, and they are absolutely top notch. And I won't praise them too much because
Nice of you to say.
yes, 4 absolute top quality musicians, all from Merseyside area. I must emphasise that, not just Merseyside lads, but Merseyside area, and we'll be getting some geographical locations from the likes of you, George, because I believe you've got a Warrington connection.
I now live in Warrington.
Yes, but you didn't before then.
No, I didn't. I lived in Southport
Yeah.
and I lived in Formby. I was born in Crosby.
Right, so that's the Liverpool connection. Yeah,
All the
yeah.
way around.
Yeah. And there's a band in Southport that I'm kind of familiar with through my Lanky Beat website, and that's the name of the band is Jasmine Tea.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Is that going back kind of to when? When does that?
That's going back to 69. I think Alan was in the original part of Jasmine Tea, which then progressed into a 3-piece band.
Yeah.
Myself, Alan, and Brent Pickthall. Absolutely super band, great band.
Fantastic.
We stayed together for
And they were operating about what age or what kind of era? The 60s?
late 60s.
Late 60s.
To I was with the band till about 70, late 74, early 75, something like that. 75 I was with
Yeah.
them.
That's
so
right.
you were
And
operating.
then it progressed, which Alan will take up in a minute.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're going to bring Alan in now. Alan, thanks very much for coming and seeing us, and
You're very welcome, Bill. Very welcome.
giving up your time to come and have a look at us.
No problem. By the way,
Oh.
just let me clarify one little thing you said. You said, and George is very diplomatic, you said, these bands are superb, and George said, well, you're right, we are.
I know that Alan is not a modest lad. He's out there extrovert, is Alan, and I hope he's going to become more extrovert as the time goes on, because I need a good laugh.
Oh, well, everybody has a laugh
I
with
need
me.
a good laugh.
All the ladies I used to take out years ago used to say, one thing about you, Alan, you don't spend much money, but at least at the end of the night we have a good laugh.
I mean, what a history you've got as well, Alan.
Yeah,
you're going back to what I just mentioned, Jasmine Tea.
Yeah.
Now,
Very lucky, Bill, very privileged, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not until you get to my age and George's age that I think we appreciate this.
Yeah.
And your age as well,
Yeah.
you must do as well, you know, you must appreciate
oh,
this.
I'm
what you've
knocking
done.
on my,
What you-
I'm knocking on
What
my.
you've done, and it's been great. You know, we have some super, but going again from Jasmine Tea. George did a lot before that. I actually first met George when I was 14,
Right.
and that was in Chris and the Quiet Ones, and they just changed
Yeah.
the name to the Gems.
Right. GEMS.
MS. And you know something? If anybody's out there, we haven't got a photograph of the band. You cannot, it's
You
unbelievable.
can't believe what you do. We didn't do that
No.
back then.
No.
We didn't think it was important to have a photograph. Although usually promotional photograph was
Yeah.
usually taken.
We had
But,
lots taken.
snapshots of the band
Yeah.
playing on stage and things like that just very rarely occurred, and yet I've collected on Lanky Beat website, I've collected millions of photographs now, perhaps I exaggerate a million, but certainly thousands.
Oh, there's some crackers about them.
Some thousands of band photographs on there. And somebody back then had the wherewithal to think of taking these photographs, but it wasn't generally and normally done, was it?
No, not at all. As you said, they used to have the promotion photographs, but nobody, we've got fellas like Billy Gill coming with us now, and Billy takes hundreds of photos.
Yeah.
And Austin, who goes to the he goes to the Menzies Cats, he takes some cracking photos, and he's from this area. But they do it now. Apparently, they said the first band to ever do all this was the Beatles.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff of them around still, early photos. And
They must have had a bloke walking round, sleeping in their bedrooms all the time. You know what I mean? I'm exaggerating when I say
you're not
sleeping in
far
bedroom,
off,
but
Bill. You're not far off the
gonna
mark,
have
actually.
to have been
Yeah.
almost up the nostrils.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right. No, you're
Because-
right. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
One of the funny stories I had, I'll never forget, years ago, we'd actually played, we'd done George, which was at the beginning of Rhythm and Blues Incorporated. The Beatles were at the Odeon in Southport with
Yeah.
Jerry and the Pacemakers.
Yeah.
I think Helen Shapiro might have been on the bill. And they had a party at the Marine Club in Southport, which was in the old, it used to be the Kingsway, and the Marine Club was there.
The Marine Club was on top,
That's
wasn't
right,
it?
absolutely.
And that was the Pop and Crisps teenagers' place, wasn't it?
But the upstairs had a bar. The Marine Club had a bar, so we had to be over 18 to go there.
Yeah.
But after the Ronnie Appleby, everybody knew Ronnie's one of the local guys with promoters and all that. He's in all the books and that. Ronnie Appleby put a party on for the Beatles, and he said, "Do you guys want to play?" And do we want to play? Or the Beatles are going to come.
Yeah.
And that was the night John Lennon told us about his guitar. I won't waffle on about this, but his original guitar was not black. It was wood. Basically, it looked like wood when you sandpaper it, it goes dirty. And he ended up having to cover it in leather cloth. I will tell you that story again, because that's how John Lennon ended up with the black Rickenbacker, and he told us that night exactly how he did it. He was trying to get a jungle sound of like Bob Diddley, and he made a mess of his guitar with a screwdriver trying to get this sound, and that's how it ended up black.
Yeah. There was a propensity for guitarists to make the guitar that they bought in Rushworths or whatever into their own unique instrument by altering things.
That's
didn't
right.
they?
That's right.
That was the name of the game, and the Beatles were no different. I know McCartney was
Oh yeah.
no different,
Yeah,
and I know,
yeah.
and now I know about
Yeah.
Lennon, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming George Harrison as
Yeah,
well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely did it. We didn't do that to our drum kits, now did we?
No, not at all.
Because we were just so happy to have the Ludwig Super Classic. Yes.
I had, and George will verify because
Yeah.
George was actually involved with this. I had Ringo's Premier kit, but unfortunately, there was no providence with it. Basically, what happened? This is 1962, and I was first joined the Gems when I was 14.
So,
The drummer was Barry Madden. Chris Ribber was about to leave because he was getting married, and he was so
Yeah,
Chris.
yeah.
So we ended up with a new singer called Di Davis, and George was in the band at the time. But when I first joined them, Chris was still with us for a couple of weeks. I didn't have a particularly good drum kit. I had an old, I think it was Stratford drum kit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barry Madden had bought this drum kit, and it was £5, 4 shillings a month on hire purchase.
Oof, oof,
This is 1962.
Yeah. That's half somebody's wages. if
I'm
I
just looking
remember
at
right.
George. I think I'm right with
No,
these
you're
dates.
right.
Yeah,
Is
I think
that
I'm
right?
right with the date. And what happened was Ringo bought these. This is when he was still with Rory Stone, just
Yeah.
at the end of, just before the Beatles. This
Yeah.
is very early '62.
Yeah.
He bought this kit of Premier from Hesse's Liverpool,
Yeah.
and they were brand new. I think he probably had the first kit, maybe, or one of the first, with plastic heads on. Ringo played them for about a fortnight, 3 weeks, and he didn't like the plastic heads because nobody'd seen them. Nobody had them. He went back to Rushworth. He said to Jim Gressie, who was the guy that used to run the
I
place.
know.
Place,
I know. Yeah.
he says,
Yeah.
"Jim, I want the calf skin back, you know, the pig skin. I want the calf heads again. Can you? So he said, look, Ringo, let's not mess about. Just bring the kit back, the whole kit, and we'll give you another kit with calf skin on. So then, so Ringo actually played them for 3 weeks. Barry Madden bought them. Barry then didn't really want them because he was leaving, he was giving up. I think he was maybe getting married or going doing his job. And he asked me, he said, you can have them if you take them over. And then when you sell your old kit for a 10, 15, 20 quid, whatever it is, give me the money. I don't think Barry ever got that 20 quid, but I got the drums and I actually finished paying for them. But as I said, there was no provenance because you couldn't prove. George knows, I know, they were Ringos. But you know, you
were Ringos for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough. Where's that kit now?
Well,
and how much is it worth?
Well, I'm going to tell you very quickly without. I hope I'm not boring you here, Bill.
No, give over. This is fascinating.
Well, this actually, I had the kit, and I couldn't afford. I wanted the kit of Ludwig. This is now in 1965. I'm still had them.
Yeah.
Clive Hornby from the Denisons, who just got a kit of Ludwig, and I remember seeing them set up in the dressing room of the Grafton, not the Grafton, sorry, the Locarno in Liverpool, where we used to play on a regular basis with Rhythm and Blues Incorporated. Yeah. And I said, I'd love a kit. He says, well, why don't you do what some of the guys have done? Because the snare drum, Bill, you being a drum will know, was quite expensive. The Ludwig snare drum was it was probably a third of the price of the kit. So what Clive Hornby said, why don't you just buy the the bass drum,
the tom-tom,
floor tom,
I'll put a new,
and use your old Premier snare drum, which I did. And the drum, the cost, the day Rhythm and Blues were on Ready Steady Go was in January 1965, and my dad went with Wally, our roadie, to Liverpool to sign for them. Brought them back and he set them up. They were there. It was the first night I ever used them when we just done television with Ready Steady Go. But I'm now onto the Ludwig. The Premier kit went into Rushworth's. A guy called John Marshall from one of the bands in a Southport band bought them. Because he said to me, where's the snare drum? I said, I'm still using it, John. He said, okay, so he must have got a snare drum somewhere, and he used them for a long, long time. He played this kit. He said, I've got your old kit here. I said, you know it was Ringo's, don't you? He said, no. Anyway, what happened? John got rid of them. About 10 years ago, I get a phone call from a guy from Hesketh Bank. He says to me, I've got this old Premier, and do you know where the snare drum is? I said, I sold the snare drum. I know. And he's asking me all questions. He said, will you sign a piece of... I said, I'm signing nothing. I said, because I found out later he had them in Sotheby's in London.
Oh,
and he was trying to get... but nobody... You see, without the provenances, but he cannot... and Sotheby's would not say they were Ringo's drums. They would not say that because... he couldn't prove they were Ringos.
Yeah.
I knew that George. He knew the ring. I knew the Ringos, but and John Marshall. But John had well got them. I don't know what happened. I heard hypothetical figures. If the drum kit was say worth 500 quid, because of they told about this, but they actually said we can't prove it. I think they made maybe instead of £500. I'm not that bad, am I? Boring you.
No.
£500. I think they made about £750. So they got some extra, but not if, as you said, if they could have proved he could have retired.
Back then, the value wasn't appreciated.
That's right.
But 50 years on.
Oh, imagine now.
What that would be, because we've seen the extraordinary prices musical instruments get, particularly if they become authenticated.
Well,
but they're not worth anything.
That's right.
If they're not authenticated, and getting the authentication is the trick, isn't it?
I couldn't believe it. Remember Mind? They just sold George Cole's, the jacket he wore and his hat for something like £12,000. Unbelievable. So if you've got a guitar, well, look at that guitar that Lennon got stolen. It turns up in America. They authenticated by all the numbers. It made something like $58,000. That's the Gibson Jumbo. He had stolen from England. He turned up, and they couldn't take it off the guy because they don't even know how he got to America.
Yeah. Anyway, that gives us a kind of a convenient little break, as to say, you're listening to Bill Hart. He's on Lanky Beat Live, and we're broadcasting throughout the world.
Super.
We are on Hospital Radio Wrightington, and I have the pleasure of company with Alan Menzies and George Eccles. Now, what I'm going to do now is play the second track on the Dominoes CD, which I'm looking forward to because, again, I'm playing on it. Now, this is an instrumental, and both the tracks have been written by Ken Shalliker, who's a predominant bass player, still around, played with the Dominoes, of course, and still doing his bits and pieces. And we do really, really enjoy your writing, Ken, and I think you should do more of it. So here we go, and this is called Mersey Thunder. Gave me the opportunity of doing a little bit of the background vocals there. That's what I enjoyed doing quite a bit of, and we got that track down in about 10 minutes. I'm not joking, it was unbelievable. These guys piled in the studio at about 11 o'clock, and at 11:30 they were leaving with 2 tracks fully put down in that time, which was astonishing. And in that time, of course, I managed to kind of play on both of the tracks, and we got a bit of a vocal in there on that, and that's that particular track called Mersey Thunder, and thoroughly enjoyed putting that down. And of course, George was on lead guitar on that, and here's an interesting bit for Alan Menzies. That drum kit that I use was my old Ludwig Super Classic. I put that, so I'll put that on the record as well. That's what I've put down. I still got it, and I still use it in the recording studio. In fact, I was using it yesterday in the recording studio up at Lancaster, where Jack and I, that's Hart Carney, do their bits and pieces up there. Anyway, I'm going to bring back in George Eccles, and I want him to tell me a little story that we just had a little glimpse of off air. What was that bit that you were telling me about off air?
Just that we never thought in those days. We used to be sat around with the Beatles after a show at the Kingsway.
Yeah.
Alan was there. He'll tell you he was there for several of them. And the camaraderie was fantastic. It was terrific.
Yeah.
And Ringo wasn't in the band then. It
Right.
was Pete Best.
It was Pete Best, yeah.
What a band it was. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I
I mean, seeing them play like that, you know, in the Raw, as it were.
Yeah.
Had they been to Hamburg by
Yes.
this time? They'd been to Hamburg. They'd, I suppose, refined their sound and everything that came with it.
It was tight.
Tight. That's the word I love. Bands that are tight. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely, and they had a volume as well that was a little bit more than other bands, I'm told.
It was the energy again.
The energy.
It's not volume as such. They weren't overly loud. They were loud, but not overly loud. It was
Yeah.
the energy was there. They got it so tight and so good,
Yeah.
and they knew what each other was doing all the time. You know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't keep Pete in the band. It was a shame that there are many reasons, many theories about it.
Yeah. I mean, what's your opinion of Pete's playing and his
Excellent.
style? Excellent.
Good drummer.
And I could never understand why he wasn't wanted in the band.
He was
then.
very popular.
I know he was.
Very popular.
Very handsome man.
He was. He was very, very popular. But
Yeah.
and maybe that's not the reason. It may be other reasons. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But they were great lads. They were absolutely fantastic lads.
Yeah.
Because McCartney used to let our bass player use his bass equipment and turn it up to full maximum. He used to say to him, "You just turn it down there on your guitar. That's
Yeah.
fine. And if you get a problem, just kick the amp. You know."
Good.
There was fabulous guys.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Setting up with their gear. I mean, was their gear pretty primitive at the time?
It was
Very.
compared to what we use, but it was primitive, yes,
Yeah.
because they had the big coffin. Who made those?
Adrian Barber.
Adrian Barber used to
From
make
the Big
them.
Three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the bands wanted one of these coffin
Oh, yes,
amps.
because the bass sound
The
that used
bass.
to come out was out of this world,
Was it?
and that worked so well with the drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got this really tight sound, this really great Merseybeat sound. Pete, the records.
He's not given enough credit, is Pete.
No, he's not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, because he was fabulous. And also, they didn't sound like the records. The records were more refined.
Yeah.
They were such a raw, good live band.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things about live music and recorded music, there's a huge difference.
Huge gap.
Huge gap.
Yeah.
And some bands did it, and some bands didn't do it. And the obvious ones for me are the big three. They had the
Absolutely.
biggest
Oh.
sound
Fabulous.
on Merseyside, didn't they?
Fabulous.
And yet they couldn't transfer that sound onto a studio setting.
The excitement didn't come through on record. It
couldn't
was
come-
good, but it didn't come through on record.
I feel sorry for bands like that, the big three. They're known and well known to us,
Oh, yes.
but not more than outside Liverpool. Not much more is known about them, apart from, they're certainly not internationally
No.
known about them. And it's the
Quite
same with, I'm thinking of King Size Taylor and the Dominoes, for
Yeah, yeah.
instance, and Rory Storm and the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
They were absolutely magic live,
Yes.
so I'm told. I'm not old enough to know.
Oh, yeah,
So, but they couldn't transfer whatever it was onto a record.
The excitement didn't transfer. Apart from one track that King Size Taylor made, which was Stupidity. That
Yeah.
transferred and that came across so well.
Yeah,
But there's not a lot that are really outstanding and can compare to what that actual track of Stupidity.
right.
So hence they didn't get the chance to get the hit records.
I know. That's the tragedy, because the immense talent that
Oh, yeah.
was seemingly overlooked at the time, and I think attempts were made, weren't they?
Oh, they
to
were.
put them in the recording
They were,
studio.
yeah.
But what came out of the recording studio didn't actually work, did it?
It didn't, and that's the beauty with the Beatles. They actually came out of the studio, and these songs were so catchy, so clever. There's nothing hard about them.
No.
It's just the clever way that the chord structure was,
Yeah,
and it had to be spot on.
yeah,
If you're playing a Beatles song, it's got to be spot on.
it has.
Otherwise, it doesn't come across.
Well, I remember, in the 60s, we attempted to do a Beatles song, and how much more difficult it seemed to do a Beatles song than
Yeah.
any other song.
Yeah.
And once we'd thought we'd cracked it and we played it live, and we thought we'd made a good job of it, and I hope we did, we thought we'd achieved something.
Yeah.
We really did. Really, we felt exhilarated because we'd actually played a Beatles song live. Wow, that was some big deal to me as a band player, and and that's the kind of, I don't know, it's the adulation that and the the wonderfulness of the Beatles. Being it's adulation. That's all I can say. It
Yeah,
is.
that's right.
To actually emulate and copy them in some way was a feat of its own. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, even
about it.
today, those songs stand up on their own, and the kids of today, I'm calling them kids now because I'm getting old a bit,
Yeah.
are buying them, and
Yeah.
they're coming out as certain volumes with different mixes, stereo mixes, mono mixes.
Yeah.
Every year there's something new.
What do you think keeps this Beatles music so fresh? It's like when I put a Beatle track on, it sounds like it was made yesterday and it was done almost 60 years ago.
I know.
What is it about their music that's
Once
done?
again, it's the way that they did the simple chord structure. They're catchy songs, very catchy songs. People have tried to emulate them and tried to do songs in a similar vein, but never actually captured the way that the Beatles have actually done it.
I know,
Very clever.
I know.
And
And with nobody's done it since either.
no, that's right.
That's what makes them so unique.
Correct.
And is so popular. It's just astonishing. I've gone back into the back catalogue after a very long time and just put one track on,
Yep.
just to see how it affects me. And I've just nothing but absolute praise for what they've actually done. I can't put it in words. I'm struggling for words.
Well, yeah,
actually.
that's right. A lot of the bands from that day don't mean a thing now. Don't mean a thing at all.
Yeah.
Some of them are totally forgotten. There's been some really good bands with big hits,
I
etc.,
know.
all over the world.
I know.
But the Beatles are still known right round the world, not just in the UK, the States,
Yeah.
Europe, Russia,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Now then, Alan, I'm going to bring you in now. What do you think the Beatles killed rock and roll? How about that for a question?
No, I think they reinvented a lot of stuff. No, they didn't kill it. They were
Yeah.
absolutely, they were
What we had,
unbelievable, weren't they?
yeah,
They
what,
really were.
What we had pre-Beatles was this good old-fashioned rock and roll
Yeah.
stuff, wasn't it?
Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, absolutely. What's his name on the piano?
Jerry Lee.
Lee Lewis.
Oh,
Little Richard.
yeah.
And dozens of them,
Yeah.
all making little single hit records.
Abs-
Yeah, weren't they? And
Yeah.
collectively, there was nobody doing it in the form of a band, apart from one bloke who did it with a band, and that was Cliff Richard
Yeah, that's
and the
right.
Shadows. And they came up, and then after that, there seemed to be a lull in the musical market, and then the Beatles hit the.
Well, Bill Haley had a band. He started
Oh.
it with a band.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
My apologies.
No,
My
it's
apologies. But
it's so.
it's nice to reminisce.
Yeah. I didn't realise that Chuck Berry had a record out in 1955. I really didn't. All that time ago, 1955.
Yeah.
It really surprised me.
Yeah.
And then, but you're right about it. There was Bill Haley in the comics, but then, yeah, it was Little Richard.
It wasn't so much a group, was it? It was
Carl
like it was
Perkins.
like a, yeah.
Even Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
you know, Jerry Lee. I mean, you probably don't know, but I actually played with Jerry Lee's sister for 12 years, Linda Gale Lewis.
Yeah.
Now, you've heard the stories about Jerry.
Yeah.
You want to hear the story she can tell you that nobody knows.
Oh.
You
Are you
know.
going to tell us?
Oh, I couldn't.
I couldn't.
No, but it's great, fabulous. She's super, and so is
Yeah.
he, and they're still very, very close, which is great.
Yeah.
And Jerry's 80 odd now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still doing
God
it.
bless him.
Still doing it.
God bless him.
Yeah, still.
So you're just being like a politician and not answering the question.
You're right, you're right. Do I think Beatles killed rock and roll? Not at all. Not at all.
No.
I think they
They
absolutely...
just carried the process on, didn't they? And
yeah.
put it in
You know,
another
yeah.
dimension, didn't they?
Absolutely. No, yeah.
And all about this time, you're rock and rolling, I believe, all over Europe.
Yes.
Am I right with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which band was this?
Well, with Linda Gale, it was Rock Roll Remember. It was a show. We had 2 girl singers. We had unbelievable sax player and guitarist. I could go on all night, Bill. I could have. Could, as I said, fabulous. But also the Beatles did very, very well playing Beatles music.
Yeah.
All over Europe. A friend of mine who it was a band in Liverpool called
Never
Lee
mind.
Castle and the Barons.
Wow.
Right? Their drummer was a guy called Mel Preston.
Right.
Mel is now, I think what he's done is unbelievable. He's about 72, Mel now. He emigrated to Australia 3 years ago, I think.
Right.
He now goes out, because his family's over there, after dinner speaking,
Right.
talking about Mersey Beat, because that's all he wanted. I used to go, as I said, I've been to the States many times. My girlfriend's sister lives in Alabama, and people just jokingly, they say, "Well, you're from Liverpool?" Yeah. And they say, "Hey, did you know the Beatles?" And I
Yeah.
say, "Yeah."
Ah.
And then they look, I say, "Yeah, I know the Beatles, and I
Yeah.
played on the same stage as the Beatles."
Yeah, you did.
And, but we're still here having a good time tonight, Bill.
Yep. Yep. Now I'm going to kind of press you because we are running out of time.
Absolutely.
This is Bill Hart on the Lanky Beat live show with Alan Menzies and with George Eccles, giving us some fascinating insights. I've just been enthralled tonight. We're not quite there yet. There's still about 3 or 4 minutes of the programme left. Just very quickly, there's a guy called Lally Stott, isn't there? Does that
Absolutely.
name ring a bell with
Oh,
you?
very much
Yeah.
so. Very much so. He, as everybody know, he recorded. He did record, but he wrote "Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep,"
He certainly
which was
did.
a massive hit.
I
Massive.
mean, you talk about cheesy songs. It couldn't be any, but the guy wasn't cheesy at
oh,
all.
not at all. Now,
He was a
wasn't-
true rocker.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
He was rock and roll.
He
Yeah.
was Mr.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll.
Absolutely.
He was in a band called the Vaqueros, and
That's
they
right.
hail from Prescott. Am I right, near St. Helens?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
And the long and the short story of,
Yeah.
of everything is that Lally, a young man,
Yeah.
a world at his feet,
Yeah.
came home from his Italian experiences and
Yeah.
the things he'd been doing in Europe,
Yeah.
got himself a little motorised scooter, crashed
Fizzy.
it,
They used to
and
call
killed
it fizzy.
him.
That's
and killed
basically
himself.
Phil.
And that was it.
Bill,
That was
that's
it.
exactly what happened.
And it was unbelievable that talent, and it was an emerging talent. He was all over Italian TV, wasn't he?
32. He was
At
32.
32,
years old,
and
yeah.
that was it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you had the pleasure of playing with Lally, didn't you?
George and I, we played. We did a complete full LP with him. But one of them was released called Bimby Lou, and Tribute to a Painter, which was fantastic. George and I both played on them with our old bass
Terrific
player.
tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Tribute to a Painter was just unbelievable, and Bimby Lou was absolutely. It was great. You know, really,
Fantastic.
really,
Fantastic.
very, very commercial. And we had some great times with him.
Yeah,
We could
yeah.
talk about that for the full programme, Bill, just Lally Stott on his
Yeah,
own.
I know.
The things
I know.
we did with him. It was great. We had a great
Yeah.
time.
I mean, and meanwhile, he took the time out to write a song like Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep,
Absolutely.
which it's dumbfounded. It was made by a band. He didn't sing on it or anything, did he?
He actually released it, and he was very, very well known in Italy, Lally, and he was very well in with RCA. Although he never had any hits, and his own record label, funny enough, was Philips.
Yeah.
His own record
Well
label.
then.
And I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how middle of the road actually got it, because they were doing a bit in Italy at the time, and their producer was a guy called Tosti, and they had other two guys called the Capuano brothers, but they were songwriters. But Lally wrote. He wrote lyrics and the music for Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep. That was all his.
And my eyes water at the amount of royalties going spare here.
Oh.
Did those royalties go down to his family or anything like that?
Well, unfortunately, as George will tell you as well, Lally didn't trust banks or accountants or anybody.
He used to wear a money belt.
Yeah.
If he went out and did a gig,
Yeah.
he would get paid in cash, and it'd go straight into his money belt.
Yeah,
And the same with his royalty checks,
right.
and he'd get them cashed when he wanted some money.
So,
But the royalty checks were coming in.
yeah,
So goodness knows what happened to all his royalty checks after he sadly passed away,
Yeah.
after he sadly died.
yeah, unbelievable.
But there you go, that's life, and that's what happens in the music industry.
Yeah, and the trouble is the naivety
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
music industry, and particularly
Yeah.
young lads in bands from Liverpool or wherever else, wanting to sample the big time, get into the big time, but there was no thought to this particular business side
No.
and financial side of things, was there? And that's where everybody got their fingers burnt, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
And the lawyers took their share, and the agents took their share, and everybody took their share, and there was nothing left for the artist who actually made the music.
Correct. It's just been found out now that the Escorts never received a penny.
Yeah.
I saw that on Facebook. Yes.
Oh, right,
The
okay.
Escorts. I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've never got any royalties back from any of the material that they produced in the 60s.
But the manager's relation got the royalties.
Yeah.
They found out now, yeah.
That was a
Found out.
fact. That
Bobby
was a-
Thompson summed it up, Bill. Great musicians, bad accountants.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a fantastic world we live in. The music is everything about that world. The trouble is, there's a business side to it that is dark and seedy, I think.
Terrible.
And terrible, as Alan says.
It is.
It is,
It is.
as George is
It
saying.
still is now today.
I know. And it's frightening to actually think of producing maybe a song or writing a song and it becoming popular, and then what would happen, what would really happen to it these days, because I don't know, would it be like throwing yourself into a black hole and wondering, you know, and never to be seen again?
Where will it end? Will I get to the bottom or whatever?
Will I get, where's my bit?
Yeah, will
out
I
of
come out
this?
the other end or not? You know,
Yeah, yeah, it's
a lot of talented people been well ripped off,
yeah,
unfortunately.
The Rolling
Well,
Stones.
yeah.
Yes.
The Beatles to a certain extent.
Yeah.
When in the early days, yeah,
Absolutely.
They just took a deep breath and said, "Hang on a minute, I can just see John Lennon saying it."
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Hang on a minute, what's going on here? You know, and Prince in latter day changed his name to a symbol that couldn't be misinterpreted on a music contract because he'd been ripped off.
That's
by
right.
Whatever.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
there goes another kind of story. But we've come to the end of our little session, boys, which I'm sorry to say, I'm absolutely enthralled at what we've been talking
It's been
about.
fabulous, Bill. And thanks.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Thanks, Bill.
Shall we do it all over again?
Yeah.
Sometime soon?
Do it again.
Yeah.
And we'll get more of these stories, because I feel I've only just scratched the surface with
Do you
both
know
of
what you just sounded like then, Bill?
Oh.
Alexander Armstrong on Celebrity, whatever it is, you know, saying, "You must come again when
must
you've
come
lost."
again.
When
That's
they've
right, yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
Pointless.
I mean-
Celebrity pointless.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Alan.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You're
I
welcome.
mean,
Bill.
some people come in and we kind of, you know, they've not got a kind of a lengthy history like you guys have, but you know, thank you very much, Alan Menzies. Thank you very much.
A
sir.
last thing, Bill, as
Go
I
on.
said, a little boy sat with his mother and he says, "Mum, when I grow up, I want to be a musician." She said, "Well, son, decide on one. You can't be both."
Bill,
George,
pleasure.
Thank you very, very much.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll see you all again soon. We'll hopefully be with you all again soon. Tune in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure we're going to get Andrea on board. She's so busy, is Miss Cook there, that she can't commit herself really to anything much because she's a professional musician, and if she's offered a gig, well, she obviously has to take it, and so that's the way it is. So I'm going to love you and leave you all. Thank you very much for listening, and good night, and God bless to you all.